The warming glow of a summer's dawn greets a grateful young Perkins. His night's vigil ends with the comforting sound of the widow going through her morning routine, a reassurance that he had survived the night. Looking at the dolls through the light of day, they appeared quite benign. From what he could tell, they'd remained in place. He was relieved to find that they hadn't moved an inch, not a single inch, the morning light reflecting against the glass eyes in an almost cheerful way. There was no dark malignancy, nothing of dread. Inhaling deeply, he could find no noxious odor. In fact, the air was quite fresh. Nothing odious prevailed. Throwing back the covers, young Perkins sits up in bed and greets the dolls. Morning, girls. His eyes running the length of the shelves, the young man again greets the lifeless figures with a cheerful, "Hey, y'all. I said good morning. I guess you must be sleeping," he says with a nervous chuckle. Relieved to receive no answer, he begins to dress. There is a light knock at the door. "Good morning, sleepyhead," the young widow softly calls. "You awake in there?" "Yes, ma'am," replies young Perkins. "I'm awake." "You dressed?" "Yes, ma'am. I'm about dresses fastening the last strap on his overalls." He opens the door. "Here I'm is." With a beaming smile and a hearty hug, young Perkins happily greets the young widow with a friendly peck on the cheek. "My," she says with surprise, "my little man is quite spry this morning. Just glad to see you," he says with a smile. "Well, morning," she replies. "Glad to see you too." Turning him about, she guides young Perkins into the bathroom. "Now you just wash up while I make breakfast." "What's for breakfast?" he inquires. Oh, I bought some bacon the other day and we have all those eggs. How about—" She ponders. "How about bacon and eggs? No, I think I'll make an omelet with slices of bacon inside. How'd you like that?" "An omelet?" replies young Perkins, having never heard the word before. "What's that?" "You never had an omelet before?" queries the widow. She voices the question with an amused incredulity. My. Why, you ain't lived till you've had one of my omelets. I'm gonna fix you one of my favorite specials, Hazel omelettes. Oh, yes, remember now, after breakfast we going down to Musky." "I forgot, ma'am," replies young Perkins, as he begins to perform the complicated procedure of washing up in a bathroom that is to him both modern and alien. His mind turns to that of his home, to his grandmother. His morning would be filled with various chores. He would have to gather the wood for the old iron wood-burning stove. It would be he who would be required to gather the eggs from the chicken coop. His would be the hand that worked the pump that filled the bucket of water that would be heated for his Saturday evening bath. And when it came time for him to relieve himself, the outhouse was always there, waiting. It never roared with the rush of water. It was simple, safe, silent. Young Perkins remembered complaining many times about the drudgery of manual labor. The widow's modern conveniences were indeed a thing of wonder. But would not the ease in which these strange contraptions perform their functions make one lax, almost lazy? The young man imagines the world in the future where men live docile, stagnant lives, a world in which men would be enslaved by the very technology they created to free them. The thought made him shudder. He vowed there and then that his grandmother would never hear him utter a word of discontent of doing manual labor, whatever it be. He smiled to himself, knowing that one day the black man would be free. Pastor Jackson always said that all the evils inflicted on the darker peoples of the earth would be repaid in kind. One bright and glorious day, the white man's greed, his hatred, his lustful avarice, would someday finally destroy him. The widow calls from kitchen. "Breakfast is ready. Come and get it." At the sound of her voice, young Perkins exits the confines of the bathroom. Passing through the hallway, he enters the kitchen where the widow sits at the head of a small breakfast table. In front of her rests a plain white plate. In its center is something quite unfamiliar to the youth. "What's that?" questions the young man, taken aback by its mere appearance. He again searches for some sort of reassurance that the strange concoction is indeed edible. Yep, she replies with a chef's pride. "Your plate is over there." Smiling, she points to a plate at the end of the table. "That there's what white folks call an omelet." Young Perkins eyes his plate with the suspicion of a policeman. "Go ahead, try it," commands the widow impatiently. "Go on, it won't bite you." Young Perkins slowly sits at the table, eyeing the plate. Don't let it get cold now. Her impatience builds. The omelet itself is cooked to perfection. Perfect. Still, the young man finds it visually unappealing, a challenge to the eyes. Slowly lifting his knife and fork, he cuts away a small portion. As he does so, he finds that it is filled with cheese, slices of tomato, crispy bits of bacon. Before he places the morsel in his mouth, the young man briefly pauses and gazes up at the widow, whose eyes reflect an eager approbation. Placing it in his mouth, he finds it quite delectable. Bite after bite sends his palate into an ecstasy of flavorful delight. Young Perkins consciously emotes sounds of pleasureful enjoyment. "Good, ain't it?" she blissfully inquires. "At first I didn't think you were going to eat it. I reckon you thought I was trying to poison you. I like my little man. I'd never do nothing to harm you, boy. You know better than that." As they finished the last of their breakfast, there is a sudden knock at the door. "I wonder who that is," placing the question to young Perkins, who merely shrugs. The knocking continues. I'm coming. Won't let a body finish their breakfast." She rises. In a state of irritation, walks to the front door. "Who is it?" she impatiently questions. "It's me, Miss Hazel," says Pastor Jackson. "I just stopped by to see how y'all doing." "Oh, just a minute." After wiping her hands on her apron, she opens the door. "Welcome, Pastor Jackson. I didn't know it was you." "How do, Miss Hazel?" tipping his hat. "Oh my, that's so nice, a new fedora. It suits you well. I always say there's nothing like a well-dressed man." The widow's compliments forces the pastor to look away. Stammering, he finds himself caught in a moment of shy embarrassment. "Well, I thought I'd dress up before I went into town. I'm going to see the sheriff. It's been a week now. We haven't heard no news. I've been down to visit with Bessie May. Miss Emma's been taking good care of the poor woman." Looking over at young Perkins, he adds, "Your grandma's a mighty fine woman, a true Christian if ever there was. You'd be proud to see the way she's been tending to Bessie May." The pastor sadly shakes his head. "Well, we all know about that there, Silas." "Yeah, him. We all know about Silas," voices the widow with a kind of ugly, vulgar disgust. "Bessie May. Well, she was in no condition to go into Musky. Son, I wouldn't put your grandma through nothing like that. I knew better than to ask Silas. No need of asking him. So I just thought I'd come down and check on y'all, see if y'all needed anything before I go down to Musky." Young Perkins' eyebrows raise in surprise. The young man is emboldened by the pastor's intestinal fortitude, his testicular integrity. Young Perkins thinks to himself, "Why, Pastor Jackson's got balls of brass. To go down to Musky and demand the whereabouts of Jonah? He's going to interrogate the sheriff." Before he knew it, the words just popped out of the young man's mouth. "I'll go too, Pastor." The widow Hazel turns her head sharply, glaring at the young man as if he had suddenly gone mad. "What are you going to do in Musky?" she snaps. "What am I going to do in Musky?" Emoting a proud defiance. "Me and Pastor Jackson, we're going to get Jonah, ain't we?" The pastor gives no reply, but his eyes, the eyes of the pastor, look hard into the young man's eyes, and with a stern, stoic solemnity, he nods his head in the affirmative. "Well, that's it then. Let's go, Pastor." With a spine of solid oak, young Perkins abruptly brushes past the widow Hazel. Standing next to the pastor, he lifts his chin with a proud defiance and exclaims, "God has not given us the spirit of fear." With shoulders back, the brave youth heads in the direction of Musky. Walking at a brisk pace, he leaves both Pastor Jackson and the widow standing in the doorway. "Hold up there, son," shouts the pastor. Rushing up to the young man, the two proceed. Walking at a quick pace, the pastor gazes down and cheerfully presents the young man with a wink and a nod. "You're quite a fella. Yes, indeed. You remind me of myself when I was your age. Yes, sir. I wasn't afraid of nobody. Hey, little man." The widow approaches the two. Her apron removed, she stands between the young man and pastor. Dressed in a lovely yellow sundress, a wide-brimmed straw hat graces her head. You didn't give a girl a chance to change. Smiling, she locks arms with the two. "You didn't think I'd let you go into Musky by yourself." Looking at the young man, she adds, "Plus we've got some shopping to do." Young Perkins and the pastor stand silently staring at the young widow's foolhardy naivete. Though it was a weekend Saturday, and that is when most of the Negroes of the community did go to Musky to do what little shopping for whatever items they needed. However, today was quite different. They were going to the sheriff's office. The square-jawed, dogged look of determination expressed in the pastor's face spoke of courage. A courage that demanded respect. For a black man to demand respect from a white police officer was as dangerous then as it is today.